Alright, so in this video we're going to continue working on how to describe pictures. And the ability to describe is really important. So if you can become really good at this, then you can become really good at just about everything. So let's talk about this really weird picture. And I chose this picture because it's stupid and because it's funny, and I hope you will remember it, and I hope you will remember how we describe it. Sometimes doing weird things is easier to remember than doing boring things. So I really like this picture. All right, let's just talk about this lady first. How old do you think she is? Well, if we're going to guess, maybe we could say she's between 35 and 45. Okay, but we can't say between 35 and 45 in a description because that sounds too technical. Too technical. That basically means that it sounds like something mathematical, something we would not use to describe people, right? And so let's say she's middle-aged. She's middle-aged, or she's middle-aged. She's middle-aged woman. She's a middle-aged, there's a D there, do the D. She's a middle-aged woman. Okay, so we've got that, and you can imagine that. And we could say what race she is. I suppose we could say she's black, or she's white, or she has a light skin. She has brown skin. But that would take longer. We would have to describe many more things. So I'm not going to focus on that much detail. I am just going to give a general description of this picture. I'm not going to talk about every small thing. I could, but it would take like 4 hours to do that. All right, so we have a middle-aged woman, and there's something special about this lady besides what is on her head. If you look at her face, right, to me, this face here, this expression, we would call this an expression. Or we could say your facial expression. Oops. Facial expression is a little bit odd, and it makes me feel uncomfortable. Actually, I don't feel happy when I look at this picture. I feel like she seems to enjoy this weird situation. And so I'm going to say that this smile that she has here, let's call this a smile, this face, is creepy. Creepy means that it's a little bit scary, and it makes you feel uncomfortable. It's scary and it makes you feel uncomfortable. It's creepy. Okay, so it's kind of like scary. I feel a little bit afraid when I look at her face. Really, look at her eyes, look at her mouth. Okay, she seems too happy about this thing. So she is creepy, and her face is creepy. And obviously we have this thing on her head. This is called a crab. A crab. Let's think about some words for big. We could just say big crab. Let's say it's a gigantic crab. Gigantic is a word which means very big. It means very big. Very big. Okay? So let's make a first sentence here. A middle-aged woman with a creepy smile is wearing a gigantic crab on her head. That's simple enough, right? A middle-aged woman with a creepy smile is wearing a gigantic crab on her head. And that's a sentence. We could make that a sentence. Now we could say there is a middle-aged woman with a creepy smile and a crab on her head. Yeah, that's okay. We can do that. But if we begin with a middle-aged woman, now we have a more interesting way to describe it. We have a middle-aged woman with, and with this, and then what she's doing is, she is wearing this gigantic crab on her head. And so I think that's better, because if we say only there is a middle-aged woman and we say with and with, it's not so vivid. It's not so vivid, I think. I think this way is a little bit more vivid. And vivid means clear. Other people can maybe imagine it better. It says it in a better way, I think. Now that's just my opinion. You can say it the other way. You could say, there is a middle-aged woman, blah, 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 blah. Okay, but I like it this way. But I'm going to add some more information. Not only is it creepy, the smile is creepy, right? Creepy is just the adjective for her smile. But now I want to describe this whole weird situation. She's not only a woman with a creepy smile, she's wearing a gigantic crab on her head, which I think adds to my fear. It adds to my fear. Fear is a noun. Afraid is an adjective. Okay, afraid is an adjective and fear is a noun. All right, so because the crab adds to my fear, I can add some information to the end of the sentence. Which. Okay, you add which, this is called a relative pronoun. So a relative pronoun allows us to add information about things. We can use that, we can use who, we can use which. I use which here because I'm not really talking about just this woman. I'm talking about this whole situation here that scares me. The woman, the crab. So I'm going to say which, not who. Which is terrifying. Terrifying means very, very scary. It is very, very scary. All right, so we have our first sentence, and I think it gives us a pretty good general idea about what we're looking at. Now, we are going to add more because I want to say more about what I think about her face, about the things I see, about the picture itself, and I have to first begin by giving a very general description. All right, so maybe. I'm not sure why she's smiling like this. It could be that she's nervous, and it's kind of that smile where something makes you uncomfortable, but you smile because it's weird and you don't know what else to do. So we would call that a nervous smile, right? If she has a crab on her head, maybe she doesn't feel very comfortable, so perhaps she's a little bit nervous. She may have a nervous smile. Now, I'm not sure if it's a nervous smile or not. So I want to mention in my description that I'm not sure. Maybe it's a nervous smile. Or maybe there's another possibility. Maybe she's evil. Evil means she's a very, very bad person. Maybe she's some sort of evil queen. Now, I don't know. I don't know where this picture comes from, so it's possible. And her crown is this crab, right? So this face here is not a smile of nervousness, it's a smile of evil, right? She wants to do terrible things to everybody, and this crab is on her head, so actually she enjoys this crab on her head, and that makes me feel more afraid. Okay, so that's a possibility, because I said it's a possibility. That's my opinion. All right, so we can begin like this. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. If she's smiling because she's nervous, if she's smiling because she's nervous, or because she's evil. Okay. But, and now I'm going to say which one I really think. I'm going to give my opinion. But her eyes, now let's look at her eyes. How could we describe these? Do these eyes look happy? Her eyebrows are raised. That means up, like this. Her eyebrows are raised up, and her eyes themselves are very narrow. Now, to me, that's a little bit scary. Her eyebrows are the things that make her really look evil, right? Really look evil. This could be nervous, her mouth, her smile, but this does not look nervous. This looks like some sort of evil queen. The evil crab queen, right? That's a possibility. All right, so, but her eyes, which are narrow, and dark. I could mean dark because her eyes are actually, dark. They're not blue, or they don't look blue, and her eyebrows are almost black, maybe dark brown. I could be talking about that kind of dark, or I could be talking about dark like evil dark. Dark has different meanings. One meaning of dark is the color or shade of something. For example, there's light blue and then there's dark blue. But I could also be talking about, it looks like dask. I could also be talking about the nature of something. Something can be light, like a good person, a happy person, is a very light person. And then there's a dark person, which is very serious, maybe not a very nice person, not a very good person. And so I think this lady has dark eyes in one or the other way. Both are true, right? She actually has dark eyes. The shade is dark, and she looks evil, which are narrow and dark. Which are narrow and dark. Suggest the latter. What does the latter mean? We use the latter when we have mentioned two things. We said one thing first and one thing second. If I'm talking about the first thing, I would say the former. If I'm talking about the second thing, I would say the latter. So our two possibilities, right? I'm not sure. I mentioned that she could be nervous, and I also mentioned that she could be evil. Two possibilities. I said this one first, and then I said this one second. Now, the smile could suggest that she's nervous. The smile could also suggest she's evil. I'm not sure. But the eyes, which are dark and narrow, that makes me pretty sure about this one. Okay, so I would say, which are narrow, suggest. So probably, if something suggests something, it makes it seem that way. It makes it seem that way. Suggest the latter, the second one, not the first one. If I said, but her eyes, which are bright and happy, suggest the former. Suggest the former. But they're not bright and happy. I think they're dark. I think they're evil. All right, so far we have this. A middle-aged woman with a creepy smile is wearing a gigantic crab on her head, which is terrifying. It's hard to say if she's smiling because she's nervous or because she's evil, but her eyes, which are narrow and dark, suggest the latter. Suggest the latter. All right, so far, so good. Now, you don't have to describe this lady as an evil person, but when I look at the picture, that's the impression I get. That's what it looks like to me, right? When I see this, that's what I think. Maybe you don't think so. Maybe you think she's nervous or something else. Whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is that you communicate your ideas clearly, okay? You can use things like suggest to communicate what the physical features, the things you see, what the physical features of something maybe perhaps mean. What they mean, or what they tell you. What they tell you. Now, that doesn't mean they actually tell you something. That means that you think this because of the physical features, because of what you see. Okay, so let's go on. Besides the crab. So if we say besides something, that means not including. Not including. We can say means besides. Oops, besides. So that means I don't want to talk about the crab now because I've already said it, so I'm going to talk about something else. Besides the crab and her malicious grin. Let me write that down here. Besides the crab and her malicious grin. Malicious just means bad, evil, right? Malicious means evil, bad. Grin means smile. Grin and smile are the same. So besides the crab and her malicious grin, now I'm going to talk about the picture not including these two things. These two things are the things that stand out to me. They stand out to me. I see them and I think, wow, that's very obvious. I think this woman may be a bad person because she has this crab on her head and she enjoys it. Maybe she's evil. Maybe she's a crab queen. You know, other than that, or besides that, what's special about the picture? Not really anything. Besides the crab and her face, it's pretty normal. She's wearing some normal work clothes. She's wearing some sort of name tag here and a necklace, and she's standing in front of a building. So this is special and the crab is special, but the rest of the picture is very ordinary. Very ordinary. That means normal, common. Very ordinary. All right. So let's say that. Besides the crab and her malicious grin, the photo isn't really out of the ordinary. If you say out of the ordinary, that means it is not normal. It is not normal. If it isn't out of the ordinary, that means it is ordinary or it is normal. So ordinary is like normal, okay? Now we can say what those other things are, which is simple to do, which is really simple to do. We just say the features besides the things which are odd, things which are weird. She's wearing some kind of name card on a dark blazer. You could say this kind of jacket is sometimes called a blazer. There are other ways to describe it, but we sometimes call this a blazer. It's a dark blazer, the color. Maybe it's dark gray. I could say dark gray blazer. And a necklace. Necklace is this part, the white around her neck here. It's called a necklace. And a necklace with white beads. With white beads. These, each piece, 1, 2, 3, 4, these are called beads. Beads. Every piece of something like this that's used for jewelry, is called a bead. A bead. Okay? With white beads. Now I can just say something from my own opinion. I wonder if the crab is alive. So from the picture, it's still, right? Because I can't see if it's moving or not. I don't know. But wow, if it's alive, that would be much, much more terrifying. That would be really, really scary. Is this woman with this evil grin or smile with a living crab on her head? Oh, that would be terrible. Really, really terrible. All right, so let's read this description. A middle-aged woman with a creepy smile is wearing a gigantic crab on her head, which is terrifying. It's hard to say if she's smiling because she's nervous or because she's evil, but her eyes, which are narrow and dark, suggest the latter. Besides the crab and her malicious grin, the photo isn't really out of the ordinary. She's wearing some kind of name card on a dark blazer and a necklace with white beads. I wonder if the crab is alive. All right, so it's just one way we could describe it. Always remember that because I did it doesn't mean that's the only way to do it. There is lots of room for opinion. In fact, that's what makes a description interesting. If you add your opinion and you choose words that you think fit this thing you're looking at, then the description will probably be better for that. Because if you're trying to choose words that you think maybe are the best possible word or are absolutely correct, maybe it won't be clear because it won't have your opinion connected to it, okay? So practice doing what we have done in this video and the last video. Look at pictures and just write and describe what you see. It's not too hard. Try to make it as complicated as you can, as interesting as you can, and connect the things you see with the things you think. Okay? Connect the physical and connect your assumptions or what you guess. Assumptions means what you guess. Okay, so if you have any questions about descriptions from this video or the last video, or you want to try to describe pictures and send me the descriptions, please just talk to me on WeChat. I can give you suggestions, maybe I can give you some ideas about how to make your descriptions more clear. Okay? So I will see you next time.